What's your name?
My name is Bo. I'm originally from Michigan, and uh, I moved down here to New Orleans because I'm in the U.S. Coast Guard.
Awesome. So, what place do you hold? Well, let me ask you this first. What is D&D to you?
Dungeons and Dragons is a game of fantasy. It's a game of adventure. It's a game that makes you feel, lets you escape for that moment in time, so you can forget about the worries in the world that's around you. It's Dungeons and Dragons is it almost becomes a part of kind of your everyday thought after you play it so much, even when you're like driving down the road or you're doing something simplistic. You always think of when you do something, you're like, oh, geez, I think I should be rolling a d20 to see if I can actually succeed in doing something like that. But Dungeons and Dragons is the it's an it's an exciting adventure that all you need is a piece of paper, a dice, and a couple of people to play with.
Amazing. So, how long would you say you've been playing role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons specifically? Let's start with role-playing games.
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons or role playing since I was in college about 20 years ago. One of the games that I played was a game called Champions. That was a game of superheroes, and that got me into it. It was a game that made me think, what can't I do in a game, and then try to figure out a way of how can I make that work in the game that I want to build, or how do I want to build it so I can incorporate that aspect of the game into it. That was about 20 years ago.
Amazing. Well, how did that lead into to the D&D?
Well, played Champions for the for that first year. Uh, that same group then did LARPing, and I got into that, and that was fun for a short time. But the idea of LARPing didn't quite hold as much, but the idea of that fantasy, like medieval, it did. And that brought me back into Dungeons and Dragons. Started playing, I played version 2 back then, and it was fun, but it was just a little too complex. But once I got into version 5, this is so much easier. The rules are very clear, they're very clean. You can kind of adjust them how you feel, and you're really not breaking the game. Of and that's what brought me into like what I'm doing right now is being the dungeon master, and I enjoy that the most.
So, what place do you hold? As a matter of fact, how many groups, how many Dungeons and Dragon groups have you been a part of? How many teams have you been a part of? Tell me about the championships that you played with, and tell me about your journey with that.
All right. Well, the how many groups am I a part of? I would have to say there's a Monday night group that I play at Plus One Gaming. I play a ranger there. I am a dungeon master for one other session that is similar to this campaign that I'm running right now, and then I also run the same exact session for my nieces and my nephew up in Michigan, and it is this similar style, a little less violent, a little less graphic, but it's still a lot of fun. And I like doing homebrew more than I do pre-made campaigns. Those are great, but I can't. Uh, I like to do more. I guess you could say improv type stuff, and with the campaign, it's kind of structured, kind of linear, kind of puts you down a direct path. And with homebrew, you can go in any direction you want, and that's what I do right now. Other than that, other than work, Dungeons and Dragons pretty much fills up all my time.
That's amazing. So, let's get a little bit more detail on linear versus homebrew.
Um, there's a few of them. There's the Horde of the Dragon Queen. There's the Curse of Strahd. That one is more a free open world, but the Rise of Tiamat. Those are in the campaign. When you read them, you're watching the players move in a. You're pushing them in a direction, and when you're pushing them in that direction, there's a fine line between forcing them down and them realizing what you're doing, and you telling them a story of how this epic adventure is going about. And with a homebrew, it doesn't matter which direction, because when you find them asking a question about a specific place and you can say, oh yeah, I've already kind of built that area, you don't have to have it readily available right then and there. You can build it as they're walking through the world. And that is an amazing one. It's an exciting thing for me because it gets my active juices flowing, but it also inspires the group that is playing, so then they can kind of feel as if they're exploring the world with you. And that's why I like homebrew, is because there can be some added flavor and some added joy to not just the dungeon master, but to the players themselves. And I love watching the players themselves see and feel the world as you've wanted to see and feel that world. And that's kind of exciting to me.
It's exciting to a lot of people, obviously. Why do you think the flair